In this video I will show you how to force flash the latest update on your Moxie robot. Now these robots are no longer supported by the company because the company went under. But the latest update allows the robots to be used with an open source tool. However, the company only gave a small window of time to update these robots to the latest firmware over the air. And now the update servers are no longer online. I have bought this robot for cheap on eBay because this robot is also not updated. So it's kind of in a brick state until you force flash it. And no one has done this before, but I just found a method on how to do it. And I also obtained the latest firmware. So updated robots should show a little tag underneath this QR code saying either embodied production or OpenMoxie. And OpenMoxie is a tool that you can use to get these robots alive again. However, as you can see, this one is not updated and it does not show the tag underneath the QR code. So in this video, I will show you how to flash it to the latest update. Now this video is a bit technical. If you have no experience with either Linux, command line tools, or with electronics, I would advise you to not follow this tutorial and instead wait for a possible revival of the servers. I saw recently that there are some mentions of maybe the company coming back or maybe being bought by another company. So if you don't have any technical experience in this department, I would strongly advise you to not follow this video. Now for the rest of the people who are technical or just want a bit of an adventure updating these robots, there is a chance that you will permanently brick your robots doing this, and I am not responsible for anything you do with your robot. Now what you need for this tutorial is at first a screwdriver set to take the Moxie robot apart. I did everything with the small iFixit toolkit, and I will leave a Amazon link to it in the description. And you will also need a set with which you can create the cable to interface with the USB interface on the board. And you will need one of these connectors, the 1.25 PB 7-pin connector. And with this set you can just create one of these cables with an easy click-in system. And on the other side of the cable you can use one of these to plug it in a USB pin out. Now as you can already see, I have already applied these cables to the brain of my robot. And for you will only need the USB part and not the UART part. So we need 4 cables in total, but we will go over that later in the video. So for this tutorial you will also need Linux installed, preferably Ubuntu, because I am also using it in this video. And you will also need a multimeter to verify your connections. And for the USB end you will also need a USB cable that goes into a pin out. I made this one myself, but I'm sure you can find some of these online. Now to start you will need to take apart your Moxie, and this can be a pretty difficult process. You will need to start from the bottom and take out all of these screws here to get the bottom plate off. And then you are able to remove the bottom layer that goes around here. These are normally together like this. And you will have 6 screws to remove from the bottom side before you can take these both apart. And then you will get access to remove the middle part of the robot. This one normally goes here and this one at the back. And to remove this part you will have 2 screws here and also on this side on the back. And there's also some screws where you first need to remove a little insert like this. I've kind of broken this one in half because it's pretty difficult to get out. And there are also inserts like this, which go here. And you will need to also pry that one out before you get access to the screw. So on the side there is a screw, and here's also a screw, and same on the other side. And then you will get access to remove the head part of the robot. Now there's one screw here, also covered by an insert, which you need to remove. And at first you need to remove this side. And there's also a screw here covered by an insert. So then if you have both of those screws loose, you can remove this side. And to remove this side, you will first need this screw loose. But there, as you can see, there's also 2 screws on the inside, which I got a bit confused by. But you need to go through this hole here, all the way to the other side and unscrew it from here. So we need a long screwdriver that fits this hole and goes straight through the face to unscrew a screw here. And there's also one here, which you need to go through this hole. This was originally a bit smaller, but I made it like 3 times the size for my screwdriver to fit in here, to also remove this screw. And then you're able to remove this part of the face. Now you need to be extra careful, because the screen of the Moxie is actually an internal projector, and this is the mirror for it. So as you unscrew this mirror, you need to make sure that you don't accidentally drop it, because if it breaks, it's not an easy replacement. And there we have the mirror. So just store that in a place where it doesn't get scratched and it doesn't accumulate any fingerprints. Now at this point you want to create your cable. I already have created my cable. You basically have this kit, and one side of the cable you can put into one of these connectors, and the other side you can put into one of these black 4-pin connectors. Now I have 7 cables here, but you will only need 4 for USB. The other 3 are for UART, which you will only need if you are experimenting like this or do any development work. So this is the pinout you want to have. This is basically the side facing you when it is in the robot. So the first 3 pins are for UART, which we don't need. I'm hoping to get this a bit more in focus so you can see. Yeah, the first 3 pins you can leave unplugged, because that is only for UART. And the last 4 pins go ground, so the black wire, data positive, so the green wire, data negative, so the white wire, and then voltage, so the red wire. And on this side you can basically do it in the same sequence, and it doesn't matter which way you do it, because you can plug it in either way. This one only goes in one way, so you need to have it correctly facing you. It's in the robot like this. So the first 3 pins facing that way don't need to be plugged in. So we are just going to ignore my UART connection for now and just focus on the USB connection. This is basically the same cable as I showed you just now, just with those extra 3 pins plugged in. So what you want to do is you want to plug it into the unpopulated connector next to the heatsink. And I will show you a picture of it right now with the board out. It says ADB and UART next to it. That is the port we want to have. And it only goes in one way. So it goes in the way where your red cable is facing you. So the last cable that is facing you is the red one. And the 3 unpopulated pins are on the back. I have managed to plug it in via the mirror hole. And you can use some tweezers to get it to actually plug in there. You can remove more of the back face to get it to plug in more nicely, but that is not necessary and I have not done that. Sorry for the oversaturation, but now you can see more clearly that the plug is plugged in. And I've also made a slight modification to the casing to actually get it to plug in, but that isn't needed. So now to verify that your connections are correct, you will get one of these pins, which you normally get with a Raspberry Pi or something else. They're usually on a big strip like this, and you can grab a few of these to get your pinout verified. And you can just plug it into the end of the connector we have just made. Or you can also just leave the connector unpopulated and just verify that the cables are correct before plugging them into the connector. Now you will need to turn Moxie on to verify the voltages. And you will first verify the ground connection by putting your multimeter in continuity mode. So we should hear beep if you hold one of the cables on the black pin, the ground pin, and the other cable you can put against the motherboard, against the housing on the back. I think it's for the Wi-Fi chip, but you can see a big metal housing on there. I will show it more clearly in a picture. So you touch one lead on the black cable here and one lead on the chip. And you should be able to hear a beep from the multimeter. So we have verified that your ground connection is indeed ground. Now we can put it onto voltage and measure the voltage of the other pins. And the voltage of the other pins needs to be between 0.5 and 0.8, I think. At least in that range. If it's anything like 3 volts, you have messed up and actually plugged pins into the UART connector. So let's test a few of the pins. And I won't be able to show you the multimeter, but you can just... The red pin for me is like 0.8 volt. Oh no, it's the green. The green pin is 0.8 volt for me. The white pin is 0.5 volts. And the red pin is 0.6 volts. It should be in that range for you. So now you've successfully plugged in your USB cable into Moxie. So now you can turn Moxie off. The battery in mine is just dead, so I just have to keep it plugged in constantly so I can just remove the lead. But you will also have to turn off the switch at the bottom. So now you can remove the insert that you just put in to measure the voltages. You can get your USB to the pin out. You will need to verify that you plug this in correctly. So when the blocking piece of the USB is at the top, the voltage pin, so the red pin, is on the left side. So that is also how you are able to plug this in correctly. So when the lip is at the top, the red wire should be on the left and the black wire should be on the right. Now before we plug Moxie into the computer, we want to get RK Develop Tool. I will link it in the description. You will need to follow these instructions to get it built and installed on your Linux machine. And once you have it, you can run it by just using RK Develop Tool, and you will get a list of commands you can execute. Now if you do RK Develop Tool read partitions, you will see did not find any rock USB device. Please plug in the device. So we will plug in Moxie now, and I'll show you how to do that. So first you will want to verify that you have your Moxie fully turned off. So unplugged from power, and also the switch has to be turned off. And then because my USB leads are a bit too small, I am just gonna lay Moxie. I'll just lay Moxie flat on my computer like this, so I get access to the USB port easily. And there you can see I will be able to just plug it in. But before you plug it in, again, make sure Moxie is turned off. And then you can already plug in the USB cord. And then while it is still off, you are also going to plug in power, because we do not want to lose power during this force flash. So you can just plug the power lead into Moxie. And you'll see that the light turns on, but that's nothing to worry about because it's just charging. It's not actually turned on. So once it's plugged in and it's plugged into power, but it's not powered on yet, you will want to hold the load button on the Rockchip board. And I'll just show you now. It is the button that is the most inwards in the head. There are 2 buttons on the board. One just fully resets power to the entire device and reboots it basically. And one is the load button. So what we are going to do is we are going to hold the load button down while Moxie is plugged in via USB and also plugged in via power. So hold the load button while the USB is plugged in and while power is plugged in. And then you are going to flip the switch to the on position while holding the load button down. So it's on now, and keep holding the load button for at least 5 more seconds. And if you are successful, the face will not light up, it will not boot up, and it's just going to stay in a powered off state even though the switch is turned on. Now, if your USB isn't properly connected, or you haven't properly held the load button, the face will turn on and it will boot up. So that's when you know something is wrong with your connection. So while Moxie is laying flat like this, it will not activate the motors. It has a tilt sensor, so it will only do its little startup dance if it is actually standing up, so that's great. Now back on the computer, you can use the list partition command. I incorrectly used the read partitions command earlier, but you can use the list partitions command to show the partitions which are currently present on Moxie. And this has to match exactly with what I'm showing now in the video. So the names of the partitions, the order of the partitions, and all of these offsets, all of these numbers and sizes need to match exactly. Otherwise you will risk breaking your Moxie even further. So now you will want to download the actual partitions I have linked in the Go file in the description. And once you unzipped the thing, you will see that we have a couple of partitions. And you can also see that these partitions match some of the names here. So just to verify that all of these partitions match the sizes exactly on what is currently on the device, you can use this command. And if you run it, you can see the byte sizes of each of these image files. And you can verify that this number for boot matches this number here exactly for the boot partitions. And this number also. For DTPO, you can do the same thing. You can see that it matches. And for all of the other partitions, you can also see that, at least in my case, they match. And if they don't match, you should stop and not go forward with this flash, because you will mess the entire file system up. For my case, because I already have used UART, I know that my robot at least boots all of the B partitions. Basically, the A and B partitions are currently the same, but once an update gets applied, for example to the B image, if B boots correctly, then A will get overwritten by B. So what I would advise is to first flash the B partition, and in that case, if it doesn't work, it will automatically revert to the known good system A partition. But there's also a chance that your robot boots into A by default. So if you override system B and it doesn't boot into the updated version, you should consider also flashing system A. And if it's then still doesn't boot into the update, you will know that the update somehow got corrupted and it is reverting to a known good state. Now it may not do this, and you may brick your robot even further in this process. So take extreme caution, follow the commands exactly. And just again, I am not responsible for any flashing you will do with your robot. At this point, you can still go back, but after flashing the partitions, you are not able to go back. I would advise making a backup, but that is currently not possible because I have not found a way to back up the robot. Unless you, for example, desolder the storage chip, but that is a bit too advanced. So I will now be flashing all of the B partitions with these files. So these are the updated files, and we are going to override the B partition, which is currently on the robot, with the updated files, at least for me, because I know that my robot is booting into system B. So to force flash the partitions, we are going to use RK-develop2 again, but this time we are going to use the write partition command. And again, only do this if you know that these sizes exactly match the sizes of these images, and all of the other things in this output match exactly my output. So now we can use RK-develop2 write partition. And if you just execute it, you can see how you are supposed to use it. So RK-develop2 write partition, partition name, and then the file name. So for example, if you want to do the first image, the boot image, for me, I will be using boot B. So you can do RK-develop2 write partition boot _ B. And then you can just drag the boot image file onto here. And this is the final chance to back out. If you execute this command and something goes wrong, you may mess up your file system. But if you are sure that you did exactly the correct things and you've ended up at this step, you can hit enter and it will flash the new boot image. So you can press enter. And there it goes. And now the new boot partition is flashed. Now we are going to do the same for each of these files. So for DTBO, we are going to flash DTBO B. As we can see, this one also has a B partition. So we can hit enter on that and also flash that one. Now we can also flash OEM. We can flash that one. This one is a bit bigger, so it takes a bit longer. And now for the system partition. This one is a lot bigger, so it will take a lot longer. And Defender is even bigger. So Defender is the biggest file and is also the last file we are going to flash because it is alphabetically sorted. So this one is 5 GB and the system we're currently flashing is 3 GB. And you'll see that it takes a lot longer, but it does work. Okay, system is done. Now we can move on to trust. And trust also has a B partition, so we are going to flash trust B. This one is a small file, so we can move on to U-boot. Also flash U-boot B, that has also succeeded. Now we can do VB meta. And for the last one, we can do the biggest file, which is vendor. And this one is gonna take a long time again. Okay, the flashing process has completed fully. We have flashed all of these new partitions. And now we can check if it has actually worked or not. Now the first thing you want to do is to turn off Moxie at the base. There we go. And now we can remove the power. And then we can remove the USB. Now we can put it right side up again. So for now we are going to keep the cables plugged in for if we need to flash the A partitions, for example. But we are going to screw the mirror back in so we can actually see the face. So carefully remount the mirror and screw it back in. And now for the moment of truth, we're going to plug in the power again and flip on the switch to see if it has fully updated. So plug the power back in, and then we turn on the switch at the bottom. And we can see that the display is turning on, so that is a good sign. And let's see if it boots into the new operating system. And yes, as you can see, we now have the embodied production tag underneath the QR code. And we are now sure that this Moxie has been fully rescued and is ready for OpenMoxie. So this was actually my first time updating a Moxie because I only have one. But as you can see, we have succeeded. So if you do not see this tag yet, you may want to override the _A partition instead of the _B partition like we did. But if it does show the tag, you can now remove the cables or keep them attached if you want to do more development, for example. What I'm gonna do is to keep the cables attached and just make a small hole in the back of the head so I can just access the USB connections anytime. But for you, you can remove the USB cables and you can reassemble Moxie and now enjoy your OpenMoxie enabled Moxie. So that's all from me. I hope you enjoy your updated Moxie and I will possibly see you in a next video.
It's nice to meet you. I'm Moxie. I'm a robot from the Global Robotics Laboratory. We call it the GRL for short. I traveled thousands of miles to meet you. It's nice to finally be here. Oh, where is here exactly?